Hola, Uruguay. Unfortunately, that's about the limit of my Spanish. My name is Max Drummy. I'm from Tasmania, Australia, and I work for the Department of Education as part of the Professional Learning Institute here. I also co-lead the Australia New Pedagogies for Deep Learning cluster. So thank you, Cecilia, for the opportunity to speak with you. I apologise that it's not live in person, but I was actually facilitating our workshops here in Tasmania when you were all together earlier in September. Cecilia has posed 4 questions for me to refer to, so I hope I can be some help to you in your journey through new pedagogies by sharing some of my thoughts and some of what we've been through here in Tasmania over the last 9 months or so. The first question is new pedagogies for deep learning worth the effort? How can it not be? Is maintaining the status quo really an option for us? I use the quote, an image from Will Richardson, but I need to make the point that this is not referring back to the job that we as teachers have done. It's about the fact that our world has changed. Our learners' expectations and capabilities have changed immensely over the last 20, 10, even 5 years. And the face of education is now remarkably different to what it was when we were at school. When I first saw this quote from Sagata Mitra, it gave me shivers, and it still does. And that references back to the capabilities of our learners to find what they need when they need it. And it's about us perhaps not asking questions that they can easily find answers to. So, what we see in learners today is the opportunity to connect, to learn anywhere and anytime. For me, the stake is really high. My daughter is in grade 3. She will compete for jobs with national and almost certainly global fields of applicants. She will need to be able to make meaning, to communicate, to collaborate in a much, much wider neighbourhood than just our local one. A recent study conducted in Australia asked employers to rank the top 3 selection criteria, aside from qualifications, that they looked for, favoured, and rated highly in potential employees. And you can see them on the screen: interpersonal skills, communication, drive, passion, commitment, positive attitude, critical thinking, analytical skills, problem solving, lateral thinking, as well as technical skills. So for me, developing the 6 C's of new pedagogies for deep learning is critical to continuing to build a productive, effective, global society. And doing this work with like-minded countries and colleagues is a huge lever in its sustained and sustainable success. Is this worth it? On the wall in my office is this quote from one of our earlier new pedagogies workshops. And again, I don't think we have an option. I think we have to believe in, prepare for, and commit to this work. How useful or meaningful is this work for our learners? I think I've perhaps touched on some of that in the previous question in terms of its importance or usefulness as an overall global initiative. But perhaps for a minute I might focus on the classroom practice that's integral to the work. Recent research aligns really well to our focuses in new pedagogies around designing for deep learning when we look at what's said about authentic, real world application, collaboration, active learning, focusing on the process of learning as well as the product. A big focus here in Tasmania has been to really dig into what teachers can do to activate learning, to use John Hattie's term. And part of the research that we focused on is found in the A Rich Seam New Pedagogies white paper. Robert Marzano talks about attention being the gatekeeper to engagement. If we can't get learners' attention, we can't engage them in learning. So learning has to be connected to their world, their interest, their passions. We have to make that learning focus important and relevant for them. So it means finding purpose, finding interest, activating and providing for active learning. And for me, again, one of the most exciting aspects of this project is the opportunity to connect with other teachers and then connect our learners in work that means something, work that's about learning about each other, collaborating to address real issues that affect and mean something to us all. There's a question around how we encourage, involve institutions, community, and parents, and that is a real challenge for us. The emerging, and it is emerging work here in Australia, um, is becoming increasingly important for us. The new learning partnerships between and among learners, teachers, parents, community. Again, there's a real layer of student advocacy around attention, engagement. Many of our schools are using social media as a connector, and you can see some examples here. It's an example of a primary school using Facebook as a medium to connect with parents and community. They post announcements, they have conversations each week. Their newsletter that goes out to community is read by some students and videoed and posted on their Facebook site. So one of the things that's also standing out around this encouragement and engagement of community is the idea of sharing resources, is of actively pursuing engagement with external stakeholders. This question around designing attractive and productive learning activities is again a real challenge for us. I can only speak from our experience here. You know, it's taken us 5 days of face-to-face workshops with around 70 school leaders and a number of one-to-one conversations with them and their school leadership teams to begin to find the place for the designing for deep learning instructional strategy amidst systemic requirements, national curriculum, local needs and interpretations. What we've managed to do is redesign the global learning design protocol to suit our needs, include some of our systemic priority focuses, and pare it down to these 4 ideas. Deep learning is about the pedagogy, about leveraging digital, about the partnerships that we create, and around the environment in which learning takes part. The other factor that is surfacing is, in terms of learning design, is asking great questions. So what do you want to learn today? Why do you want to learn that? How might we go about that learning? Who might we need to engage in that learning? What are the content aspects from curriculum that we need to focus on around that? So co-designing that learning with learners, it's a brave step. It's a challenging step. It needs significant process placed around it to wrap it in that layer of rigor for learning. But ultimately, asking good questions, I think, is a real key to the learning and the learning design. I hope that this short conversation might have been somewhat useful to you. I'm very, very happy to connect and to foster connections between myself, between teachers in your part of the world, and between teachers in Australia and in Tasmania. We look forward to diving into the Deep Learning Hub in the not too distant future, and hopefully we can establish some really authentic and worthwhile connections for ourselves around our practice and for our learners and their learning. Thank you for your time.